This is one of the ugliest things I've ever done. I could not get that bolt loose. I ended up having to get my breakover bar, and I still about dumped this thing over on this cherry picker, but I finally got that thing to loosen up. So I didn't pull it all the way out because I don't want to damage the threads in the crank. That's a pretty good sized bolt that goes through there. Turned my 3-jaw around, got a hold of the inside, and believe it or not, it's actually coming off. Very little effort. That's kind of a surprise because, like I said, I had one that just absolutely was a failure. As much as I like to try to use an impact on these, I don't recommend it. This thing's coming right off without any problems at all. Now, what I just did there, the reason that stopped is because it's actually hit my bolt. So that's kind of a pain because now I have to loosen this up and I'm going to realign all this stuff, and it's a real pain in the butt. This is my 3-jaw though. There it goes. It's a good idea to take a drill and center, just put a little pilot in the center of that bolt. That way, if you've got one that's got a center, like a little pin like this one has in the center of it, the puller, then you know, you actually got a hold of it. It won't walk, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because the thing will walk on that. And I didn't take it off very far. Almost all the way out. The bolt, I mean. I don't know if I can get this all the way or not. This is not easy to do, just FYI. I kind of was cussing it there to begin with, but it finally seen it my way. That's already out. It's a healthy bolt. So, matter of fact, it's got a little Loctite on it, and I don't recommend tapping on this with a hammer as much as I want to. I probably better not. What I may do though, let's see. Oh, it's going to be too far out. Look for something I can kind of sit in there and push against so that I'm not tearing up the end of this crank. But that's still on there pretty good. I'm going to walk in front of the camera. Sorry. I'm going to do it twice. Probably done it more. Just haven't paid any attention. Now I want to use a socket. It's a short jump socket of mine. Might run out of threads on my puller. I know I'm going to now. Alright, it's off. And now it's on the floor, probably tore up. That's a problem with these, is that they are a booger to work with. They're heavy, they're awkward. Seeing if I damaged anything or egged it. I'm not even sure what it hit. I do see some cracks in the rubber anyway. It's probably not a bad idea. Or let somebody paint that. I don't know. I don't think they're all that terribly expensive. I don't think I hurt it. It actually hit, didn't hit the floor. It actually hit the chair or the engine stand. Let me see if it. I don't think it hurt anything. And these are just pressed on, by the way. They're not keyed, so keep that in mind. That's why if you ever look at watched a video on anybody doing putting a supercharger, something that's blown, or you know that requires a belt to drive it. I'm gonna walk in front of the camera again. That's why you see them. The part of the kit usually includes the stuff you need to actually key these, so to pin it so that doesn't spin. And it's not uncommon. It's kind of normal anymore to have those just press fit. I mean, you're really not gonna hurt anything. Unless you are trying to run something blown. I imagine the ones that are blown are keyed. I'm just guessing that. I've never had one, but this thing was leaking everywhere, it looks like. That's another reason why I'm doing a complete gasket deal on it anyway, because that's a problem with these, especially when you weren't the one that owned it and were driving it last. I can't tell you where it was leaking from. It looks like the front seal was not leaking, but there's oil everywhere. So I don't have any idea where it was coming from. Be just a guess. And I usually do this on every one of them. Like when I put the motor in it, Tahoe, or the one from the Tahoe and that Malibu, I changed every gasket. I didn't do head gasket, of course, but I had to change the oil pan. But I did them all: front, rear seals, yeah, of course, valve cover, intake manifold, put a new water pump, thermostat, and I'll probably do this one too that way. If I want to drive this thing cross country, I don't want a $50 water pump quitting because I was too cheap to replace it after going through it. Leave me sitting on the side of the road. Not that a rebuilt one or a new one or whatever it is would not go out on you, because absolutely they can. Trying to keep these bolts separated. I don't have them separated good. Step it in front of the camera again. Gasket. Pretty simple setup. Got a seal on a gasket. Alright, your oil pump is also bolted on, which I keep leaving my tools laying 3 different places. And they make aftermarket ones now that are supposedly are what they call self-clearancing, or they've already added clearance into them. But this is another, you have to be very specific when you put the new oil pump on, or even you put the old one, if you take it off for any reason, a cam swap, whatever, you put the old one back on, you actually have to put, I can't remember what the shims are, I'd actually have to look that back up again. You're actually supposed to shim in 3 places around here between the crank and the inner workings of that pump, so that it's not off one side or the other and it ends up dragging on where it actually rubs something it's not supposed to, whether it be internal or whatever, and tear it up. I really don't know. Again, this is the first time I've ever pulled one of these off. And what it does is it rides on this, which It's also keyed. I don't know if it's part of the gear, maybe. Anyway, ain't much to it. When have you turned, or I got clear out of, sorry guys, it's like I got you clear out of frame whether I pushed the engine back when I was messing around or whatever. Anyway, the oil pump is this concentric, see it moves internally, and so if you don't have this right, your crank could actually rub, because this doesn't turn, just this internal piece you see moving turns. So if you don't have this right, it'll actually start wearing on something and end up wearing on the crank, and pretty soon you got oil shavings everywhere and things that are no good. Well, my wife's just pulling up. Home somewhat early today. What a shock. Well, let's see how much slop we got in the timing chain. Yeah, I've seen a lot worse. So, anyway.
What are you doing?
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull the cam or the gear off, and I may or may not pull that gear tonight. So, but anyway, just wanted to show you how to pull that off there. It worked for me this time. It normally don't. So.